I've been thinking a lot about why marketing fails. The failure of marketing is not one sided, it's not one dimensional. The failure of marketing is usually inaction. Failure of marketing is not people hate the product and they revolt against you, and there's this outrage and outcry against you. It's a lot more detached. And marketing dies not a loud death, but a silent whimper. And I think that's where people forget that the biggest barrier to marketing is not people disliking what you're doing, but it's just apathy. It's just blindness. It's just not caring, not paying attention to. You're ignored. And that becomes the failure. That forms the majority of the failure of marketing. When we see news of some big campaign that was a complete miss and there's people boycotting and everything, that's not even marketing failure. I mean, it's not good, but it was seen, it was noticed. The marketing failure that I'm thinking about is the one that when people don't notice, when they don't see. And what leads to that? What leads to this apathy? A lot of times it's a lack of consistency. It's a lack of a repetition, because you need repetition to establish yourself and your brand and your company within a person's mind. Without the repetition, without this continuous messaging, it gets lost. So the way to think about consistent messaging is both the cohesion of the messaging. If you're looking to send emails or do social media or do events, there needs to be a cohesion across all of those things. But it's also as simple as how often are you doing the thing? How often are you saying the thing? And the thing could be wrong. The thing could not be, fully optimized or tested. But a message that is halfway effective, repeatedly told, will be more effective than the correct message said only once. So then you start to think about, okay, what stops companies from doing this repetition, from having this consistency? That becomes an execution problem. That becomes a problem of something is not being done. It's a problem of workflow. It's the problem of process. And the problem of process and the problem of execution is less marketing knowledge. It's not, you don't know the right frameworks, or you haven't done enough market research, or something on the website is not properly set up with tracking or whatever it is. It's literally a personnel team breakdown somewhere where the consistency wasn't prioritized, or it wasn't fully taken account of, or someone is accountable for it or responsible. And that's where we find ourselves. And that's where marketing teams find themselves when they're unable to fully get the results they want. It's more operational. It's a lot less messaging. And granted, you can have a situation in which you get the messaging so right, you just have to say it once and it spreads. But that's not the likely outcome. That's not a scenario that's likely to happen. There's a mental game to marketing in the same way that there's a mental game to sports. It's not the physicality or the physical talent or the strength or the speed. A lot of it comes down to the mental component. You could ask athletes, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you. 90% of it is mental. And the same thing across other crafts, such as marketing, where the gap is not knowledge. The gap is not insight. The gap is literally people not doing something. And that's a perennial problem in and of itself. I mean, how many things do we know that we ought to do that we don't do? So that same problem plagues marketing teams. And that's the thing that I think really stops companies from being successful. So as I think about that, and as I think about my own marketing journey, I think about, where is my personal performance in all of this? Where does that lie as a indicator of success? And optimizing for personal performance, it's different. It's a different game. If you get that right, you do become a better marketer, or you become a better accountant, or a better programmer, or better anything. I think a lot of marketing strategy assumes that the human performance element, that the team performance element is arbitrary, that it's just solved. And it assumes that that won't be an issue. But that's where the strategy breaks down. So, what do we take from all of this? There is hope that the gap that exists is less of an experience or knowledge thing, which takes some time to get to. You don't have a shortcut to 5 years worth of knowledge without putting in work for 5 years. But there are certain gaps that you can meet on a day-to-day basis. I've had this where some days were great. I was productive, focused. Some days I wasn't. And it varies day to day. It's less to do of my work over the years and more to do with how my week is going and how I'm sleeping and how I'm eating. Really basic things that almost have nothing to do with marketing, but it's all tied back. And there's always an opportunity to improve at any of those levels. So when I think about my own professional ability to show up and be a better entrepreneur, a better leader, better marketer, I try to remember that it's a lot simpler than marketing knowledge or the latest algorithm changes or any of those things. It's more foundational. So, how's your foundation?